There is grey ash under your feet, and Ariel, as you're walking through lands that you don't recognize. There's these massive black mountains that surround you as you move, like with purpose, towards this massive ruin. There are these spires of twisted black iron that are now crumbled to the ground. But this is a place that you've never been, but you've seen it many times. This is the land of Mordor. And gone are black clouds that ever plagued this place. If you look above you, there is sunlight, which is maybe not graced Mordor's land for centuries. And the sun is shining down on this ashen grey ground, and as you walk, you leave footprints in the ashes, and under which you can see that there is earth, rich, dark earth. And there's a strange sense of comfort to this place, something that's never been a part of your dreams. Something is missing, and something that's always been present in your visions is the Wraith. There's no sign of that creature, of the dread of its appearance, no feeling that it might. It seems that it's gone.
And Ariel will turn and look at her footsteps as they trace a pattern in the ash and bend down to feel the earth underneath her hand. Does it seem real?
Definitely. It seems like it could grow things here. And as you sort of like reach around in the ash, you like can see, you follow this trail that you're unerringly following, like you're going somewhere, you know where you're going. And as you walk around this pillar of like oily black stone ahead of you on the ground, there's a tiny seedling that's sprouted from the ground. And it's so green and so vivid among the black and grey that it seems to almost glow with like power and light.
And Ariel sees it and laughs with joy and delight. And she will kneel down and give a tender kiss to the leaf of this seedling. And stand and keep walking.
Barath, you're sitting in the hall outside of Saruman's forge. Elrond is speaking to you, but there seems to be no sound at all. He's like shaking his head at you and moves back into the room where the ring had been. There's like a ringing in your ears, and your body is aching from hundreds of wounds that you've taken. And your companions are laying on the ground around you.
Yeah, he looks at the fallen dwarves and the elven warriors scattered about. And he looks to his own hands as he'd retreated to this place in shock after watching the mass rout of Sauron's forces. He'd knelt to pick up the hilt of Lactwan, for it is only a hilt now shattered by the force of the Witch King's power. But he just feels numb and serene and almost mirroring an Ariel. He laughs. He laughs at the hilt of the sword that perhaps he'll never need to use again. Perhaps. And then he'll look to Elrond and say, confused, Lord Elrond, what is to be done now?
And he shakes his head. I don't know. There's a lot that needs to be discussed.
Where is Beregond?
I don't know that either.
And Glindair?
He like points, and there's like some benches laid out, and Glindair and Nariel are on them, as well as several others.
He strides to them and he looks upon them, their faces peaceful. and tears move through the grime and the blood that mars his face. And he kneels next to them and takes both of their hands, and he prays.
Baragon, wherever you are in the tower, you can hear stomping, and you can hear singing in some language that is unfamiliar to you. And you can like see out a window that like as the foe is fleeing, Ents are among them, swinging like their hands and fists and flinging orcs in different directions. They're rushing, all of them, the orcs, the trolls, as fast as they can and as far as they can away from here. And the sun has come out, and many of the trolls are simply frozen, immortalized now in stone all around Isengard. As well as Knights of Arnor and Galadrim cavalry just riding out and trying to keep the enemy routing, make sure they don't return.
From his vantage point on the outside of Orthanc, there are various sort of sculptures and things, and he's just one of the foremost amongst those. He wanders about his companions and quickly makes his way back towards the Chamber of the Ring. Waiting to see, yes, looking to find Faroth and Anariel and Glindair above all. There are others that he cares about, but none so much as those three.
Glindair, you're in a white marble hall, and you're walking through it, and your footsteps sort of echo as you're moving through it. There's this massive stained glass window at the far end of it, and it turns the whole place this rainbow color. And you're marching past statues, and you can see Gil-galad among them, and Feanor and others as you step down this hall. And then you can see your own face immortalized in this statue, this pose of serene calm, which maybe brings a smile to your face. That's not your experience, but that is how you are known, perhaps. And you're in this hall of great elvish heroes, and you're looking up at this statue of yourself as the light filters in.
He realizes that the smile is upon his face, upon his actual face, as he looks upon the calmness that is wrought in this statue of himself, and instinctively he feels a swell of too many emotions. I think pride to see himself here with such legendary elven lords, and guilt or shame that he maybe does not belong here. But I think that thought is fleeting, and all of that in a brief moment. And then as the moments move on to the next, he instinctively casts his eyes across to his side, this beside the statue, where of course his sister should have a statue as well.
There's
What does he see?
sense of pain in your shoulder and then in your ribs as you stand there, which doesn't make any sense. You're not in battle, and you haven't been, as you're looking up at the statue, and you sort of like feel a sense, you are forced to take a step back from it, and then you are ripped away from it, and Faroth and Baragon, you would see Glindair's hand twitch, and then his face go from serene to one of significant pain, as he wakes here in the hall.
And I think it would, upon his lips, would be crying out his sister's name as he wakes, as you've heard him cry out many times going into battle.
Hear peace, Glindair. You have returned to us. And you have returned to your beloved sister. See, and he takes your hand that he had been holding and presses it on top of your sister's. It is over. The day is won.
The day is won.
It looks over, probably in slow motion, to see Beregond, emerging from somewhere?
Yeah, Beregond is just watching from the shadows, but not completely in the shadows. He's just sort of tentatively not knowing whether to come in or go out. He's got a look of dread in his face as he's looking on you, but a look of relief as you revive. And although there's a lot of pain and in you, and there's concern on his face, he doesn't know what to do, and he's also beaming to see you.
Beregond, my friend. I thought for sure we had lost you.
No. Everyone else took graver wounds in this battle than I, but I played my part. The sister especially, he says, looking at her.
Nariel, it feels like there is a massive weight on your chest, and you can't seem to move your right arm no matter how you try. And you can hear that there are people rushing around and people are talking sort of distantly, but you can hear shouting, like the battle is still going, but it's not shouting, it's singing. There are people singing all over the place, and you can hear men of Gondor singing about white towers between mountains and the sea like they always do. All of their songs have the same words in them. You think, and you try to like rise or open your eyes, but the pain and the weight on your chest is too heavy, but you can feel a hand holding yours.
Nariel, with every ounce of strength that she can summon, gives the most barely perceptible of squeezes.
And Glindair suddenly looks across in surprise, as probably interrupting Beregond as he's speaking. His attention immediately sent over to an Ariel in her hand. Do I dare? And he'll give it another squeeze, not too sure if he imagined that. And he'll, I think at this point he's still kind of laying in his own bed as Faroth sort of moved his hand over. So he'll, not letting go of an Ariel's hand, he'll, with great pain and groaning, but trying to maintain as much elven grace as he can, he'll sit up on the side of the bed and move over and sit on the side of an Ariel's bed, and I think begin singing to her as she did for him. And that's anticlimactic. I haven't prepared a song. I think you were waiting for me to sing. I thought about preparing the same song, but I didn't want to be outdone by you.
Anariel's hand is cold. You would think dead. But as you hold it, there's a change and a warmth that returns to it.
As he sings, the relief just pours through in his voice as he just lets the emotion out, and the words waver. And like we've seen Anariel do and Faroth do, he allows himself just a laugh of unbelief, of relief, and forgetting his own pain and the pain that Anariel herself would certainly be contending with. He would just embrace her, just give her a tight hug. I cannot believe it. The enemy is gone and you are returned to me.
One of the elvish healers who's like dealing with someone else at the moment looks over with this stern sort of like she's injured, you can't do that sort of look, but it's too busy to properly scold you for it.
Faroth is going to look over to Beregond, standing.
No, Beregond's disappeared again.
But he has vanished.
Mm-hmm. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Faroth had opened his mouth to speak, to address you. He had not seen you since the battle's end, but with that you were gone. And Faroth's expression saddens a moment.
Where have you gone, Beregond?
Gone down to kitchens or something to prepare a tinsane, a tea, get some sort of drinks or something like that, and bring them back up on a ewer in a few minutes.
Yeah, the kitchens are mental, busy. It's like the victory is barely complete, and people are thinking of food and of feasting and of celebrating. As you sort of, it's busy in the tower, and as you kind of move your way down, there are soldiers cheering, and you'll be greeted a lot by cheers if you're seen, if you decide to be. But you can make your way to the kitchens, no problem.
In the way, there are still healers at work, and he's snapping at everybody. Your work may be finished, but there are others up to their armpits. Stop! Get out of my way! He's sort of just using authority rather than strength to push his way through. But and he angry at this sort of unabashed. There are people dying. Tend to the dying. You have wounded comrades. You have dead comrades. There will be time for celebrating, time for cheering. Oh, cheer, he says. I'm concerned, but I'm also happy and done. But it's a mixed feeling in me, he says to whoever's here.
In all of us, this young Gondorian says. But it's done. We won.
Yes, we won, but there is no victory without loss as well. And we shall celebrate, but we shall also mourn.
Yeah, they sort of, the two young guys sort of look between each other and then back to you and sort of nod and wait for you to pass, and then they sort of like, yeah, are like excited again when you go. The room where the ring was is a ruin. All of the windows have been smashed by some sort of power, and everything within the forge where it had taken place, is smashed to pieces, broken here and there. They've set up benches and things for some of the most important wounded, and Elrond himself, as well as some of the more senior healers, are healing here. Elrond looks old, which is something you never thought you would see. He looks a lot older, and moves slower. He looks ancient. He is ancient. You would all know that, but he sort of looks a bit more like his age than he ever has before. And yeah, of Saruman, of Galadriel, there's no sign.
I heard when I read the stories that you, Elrond, had a choice. You and your brother had a choice whether to follow the ways of your father's folk, the humans, or your mother's folk, the elves. And you chose to follow the elves, and your brother, the humans, and he started the line of Numenor, the line that became the line of Gondor and Arnor. And your brother outlived any other human who ever lived, but he did eventually die of old age. But you, I thought you had escaped that fate, but, well, maybe you won't die, but you have aged.
Some malefic intent in the ring. It lashed out in its last moments at all of us. It was Saruman and the Lady Galadriel that bore the brunt of it. We're all of us changed from that. I will go into the West as soon as I can.
Not now, but I hold you to one promise you made me. You said if we've got through this and we survived, you would describe the Silmaril to me.
I've not forgotten.
I'll hold you to that, but there is work to be done, he says, and picks up. He hears the kettle sort of rattling, and he takes it off the fire and pours it into the tea, and then takes up a copper ewer and a few copper sort of cups on a tray up towards the room where Glindair and everybody, where he left everybody. What's going on now when he gets back? When you hear a slight trembling of copper on a tray, sort of approaching, a slight rattle as he's coming up the stairs.
I think there'd be, in discussion, I think Glinda would be insisting that we discuss now what happens next in terms of Sauron's forces were routed, not defeated, not eradicated, and some things have changed about Glindair, but some things have not, and he still burns with vengeance for the countless centuries that are of scarring and shadow upon this Middle Earth by Sauron. So that's what we'd probably be talking about. Especially to King Faroth, what happens next?
Faroth will have not well, he's not really had time to think of this, really, but after a moment's consideration, he says, the leaders of the people of Middle-earth, those that have survived, It is important that we consolidate. It is important that we come together again to reaffirm our unity. It is important for everyone to know now that when we are together, we are strong. We have won, so we shall rejoice in our victory together.
And I brought some tea to rejoice, he says, handing out a cup each.
I was hoping for something a little stronger. Beregond,
Put some more tea leaves in it.
Aroth, covered in wounds, limps to the to where you've set down the tea, and just begins laughing once again, and then starts coughing when he tries to take a sip of said tea.
Too strong for you, Faroth.
I think a light breeze would have the best of me at this moment, Glindair.
Of all of us.
Oh,
Thank you, Beregond.
Beregond suddenly sees the hilt of Lactuan, and he looks shocked and genuinely upset, and comes forward. Oh, I did not see this. The Witch King.
While the blade shattered, it did what it was made for. It defended the light against the dark. And it saved my life.
So much destroyed. Can we never make something?
It was reforged once, when taken from the hands of the Black Numenorian. It can be again. I hope, he adds, slightly worried.
And what have you now? Elrond. I saw Master Elrond, yes. He looked mortal. And he's resolved to sail into the west, which I have heard so many elves speak of. What about you, Glindair and Ariel?
I think the two elves would probably share a look when you mention sailing to the west, that Elrond's thinking of or plans to do this. And it's probably a look, I think, Taylor, it's probably a look of, this is something we've always spoken of, like, especially during this journey, I suppose, and during this fight against the shadow, if we dared to hope, and I'm sure it's something that Anariel led those conversations of when Glindair was talking of losing hope and things. Anariel was speaking of when we would sail into the west together as this nebulous future time. And we would only do that if Sauron was, or when Sauron was defeated. But in Glindair's mind, that was such a roll of the dice. And so I'm not sure what kind of look he would get back from Anariel, but he would be looking over as well, sort of with a knowing look, like, but also maybe with an eyebrow raised of, okay, this is what we spoke of, but are we really going to do this?
And Ariel although her hand in yours is not as cold as it was, her skin is slightly ashen, and it does not have the warmth that it once did. And she would look at you and nod, and then to Beregond. I also will go to the west. It is the only thing left for me. For us.
We will join our aunt Calabrian, who sailed there many centuries ago. We will join all of the great elven lords and ladies and all of our ancestors and find peace and rest together. He gives a sort of weak-ish smile, still not quite daring to believe that could come to pass. There's always some threat, some dagger from the darkness. And what of you, Master Beregond? Will you return to Minas Ithil?
Who's to say I might not sail across the endless ocean with you and visit Amon, and I've always wanted to see Toleresa on the other side of the sea. And visit my kinsman. What is this ban of the Valar anyway? I've ignored many bans in my time. One more surely would not do me any harm, he says.
Nariel can't help laughing at Beregond, whose hope and personality seem somehow undimmed by the shadow he's faced. No, Beregond, I suspect you, of all people, would find a way around such things. Perhaps I might even help you.
He laughs, but there's a slight sort of unnaturalness to his laugh because he's touched something in him. But no, I will return to Minas Ithil. I will restore Minas Morgul, the Tower of Sorcery, to how it was before the Witch King got his hands on it. If my king will permit me to do so.
There are many duties and many oaths that we both have yet to honour. To Gondor and to the rest of Middle-earth. But I would order you to do none of them, Beregond. You are to do as you will. For while I am your king, more importantly, you are my friend. If you would return to Minas Ithil, so be it. I must ride to Gondor.
I think we all may. High King Feroth, King of Men, your coronation must happen.
Before we leave, though, I must find out how quick Elrond's plans to sail are. I do not wish to miss him and not hear the story he's promised.
It is a long boat ride, Varagon. You could have as much time to hear stories as you wish.
If I'm on the boat, but I don't think I'll really be going. I'm not
Anaya
sure.
looks hard at you. It is your choice. Consider it carefully.
So a week goes by in Isengard. You've been resting and recuperating. People have been rebuilding. And many people have left to go back to their homes. But there are a great many people still here. So over a week since the unmaking of the ring, you're still sore. But
Aragond has taken some pack animals and has gone to climb Methedras again to get some of the things he found up on the top and bring them back down because he wants to decorate Minas Ithil with the tapestries and the books that he saw in Methedras.
oh yes, yep. And shipbuilding and whatnot.
Various things like that, yep.
There is to be a meeting of all of the rulers that are here. There are a great many, maybe the most in any place in Middle-earth for centuries. The Queen of Dunland, the Queen of Rohan, Elrond is here, Thorin Oakenshield, Gurney Firebeard, and in the week that has passed, Lord Celeborn of Lorien has arrived to mourn and bring Galadriel's body back to Lorien and then eventually into the west. But also King Thranduil of Mirkwood has arrived. And so there's to be a discussion on what happens now, because it's very unclear. With no enemy, what will happen next? And so you find yourself at the enormous black stone table of Saruman with these luminaries of Middle-earth. And there's some quiet discussion here and there about bits and pieces, and the ever strange feeling of Lord Celeborn of Lorien, countless millennia old, asking if you could pass the butter. Things like that, which never seem to get old, even for you elves. Celeborn is ancient beyond anything that you could conceive of. But his face is dark, and his thoughts are dark, and he speaks little. But he will say, what light is there now in Middle-earth when its brightest star has fallen? What beauty can I find here without her? What can any of us find here without Eltariel? Why would we linger here without her? The wisest and fairest and most beautiful of our people, we are without our brightest star. I cannot stay in Middle-earth. I think few of the Galadrim will. And it's sort of out of nowhere. People are sort of making small talk, and he says this. And it's clear, there's even a feeling that descends upon the room, a sort of magical sense of dourness and great sadness, in the way that sometimes happened when Saruman spoke, or Galadriel, that there's such power to the emotions of ancient elves that you can feel them in the room. And Elrond says, well, I cannot speak for the Lord of Mirkwood, but the elves of Imladris too will go into the west. to our homes in a man. The age of men begins, and the time of elves in Middle-earth comes to its end. And Thranduil, who is like delicately making a small open-faced sandwich, puts it back down onto his plate, cleans his hands, and says, "We are of one mind in this. The music of Mirkwood will fall silent. We are returning to Valinor." And Elrond says, "It will not be a sudden thing. I will not command my people to join me, but there is a difference in the world now. Our duty ends, in some sense. The time of elves in Enor is finished. I'll be the first to say that were it not for the courage and might of King Faroth and his companions, we would not be having this conversation. And so I offer the service of Imladris in whatever capacity might be helpful to you." Elrond says, "To you, Faroth."
You have already provided so much to this world. I cannot begin to wonder what else I could ask you for. The elves could have gone to the west long before this time. And yet you remained true to all those that live in Middle-earth, and you stayed. You stayed and you helped protect this place in its darkest hour, when no light would shine, not even its brightest star.
And from what I understand, without really any hope of victory, without any faith in the strength in men, you stayed and you fought on, which is perhaps more than me. I always had hope.
Elrond smiles. "Perhaps I had a little as well."
I never saw it. He mentions to Faroth.
King Gurney's eyes are white after the force of the ring has blinded him. But he says, nonetheless, "Aye, we're in your debt in many ways. You dragged us here to face the enemy. We'd have fallen without your urgency. We'd have been at home. We wouldn't have Gundabad. And we wouldn't have Erebor. It was you, your friends, your companions that dragged us from our halls out into the world to do something. So I put forward now an alliance between the realm of the Blue Mountain Dwarves and the Kings of Men, in perpetuity."
Faroth will smile and say, "An alliance gladly maintained, for since the battle lines were drawn, it was so."
And Thorin says, "My home is freed, and I have agreed on the pact, to a pact with the men of Dale and Laketown. But better, communication and friendship with all who dwell in this world is a vital step to ensuring that nothing like this can happen again. So I'll throw my hat into the ring as well, as it were." And Gurney doesn't know where Thorin is sitting, but still looks in the vague direction, sort of surprised to hear Thorin Oakenshield say that. Thorin, who is notoriously stuck up and thinks a lot of himself. Gurney is surprised at that, but smiles anyway.
To what extent was Orthanc damaged in the battle? Is it is the top of it basically gone from the power of the ring being unmade?
So the tower itself is still standing pretty well. The top, which was marked with all these runes and magical symbols, that's smashed. And the forge level, that whole floor is basically crashed through. But it still stands. It could be repairable, maybe, if you found people who could work the weird stone of Orthanc. But it's still functional. The walls, the gate's been breached by Grond. But other than that, the walls are functional.
We now speak at the site of our union, the site of our victory, where the fruits of our alliance were sown and reaped. Repairs should be made to this place from each culture. Orthanc Tower should now stand as a testament to this union. This should be a place where all can come and be protected and guarded against any remaining shadow that yet lingers in this world. That is all I would ask of the race of elves and dwarves. This final tribute to our union. And perhaps, if it is not too untoward, Faratha places the hilt of Lactwan upon the table. The triple serpent of Barahir that is marked upon this blade. I would have it reforged, so I may defend what we protected here these past days.
There are nods around the table, and it seems that people are happy with that. The Queen of Rohan says, "My people are gone, almost all of them. There are barely 3,000 Rohirrim left. I do not wish to see the line of my people, which stretches back thousands of years, vanish. We cannot populate our lands, and we cannot protect them. We need your help. We need your protection."
Of course, you would have it. Always.
There is to be a kingdom of men, reunited, Arnor and Gondor, and I would have Rohan be a part of that.
Rohan has always held a place amongst the kingdom of this world, and that should not change, and it will not. I promise. What would you need of me? Of us, he gestures to the table.
Handshakes and alliances are short-lived. Perhaps your son's son and my son's son will forget the friendship. There must be an alliance made, forged somehow. I don't imagine to think that it would be on equal terms, he says, knowing that there are barely any people in Rohan. So I pledge the fealty of Rohan and its people to the reunited kingdom. You think that was very difficult for her to say, and that would be a very unpopular choice with the Rohirrim.
Did we promise any of Rohan lands to the Dunlendings?
No, I don't think so.
No.
You promised them up as far as a river and then down as far as the mountains of Gondor and to the Pass of Eisen, I think is what was agreed on.
That's fine. I just wanted to I'm pretty sure that in those discussions we wanted to make sure that Rohan weren't being written out of their own lands. Faroth will nod and say, all resources will be afforded to you, that the Golden Hall will once again stand upon, Edoras shall be rebuilt.
Yeah, she nods. Thank you. Tyrannon is quiet, doesn't offer to add herself to the alliance, seems, in fact, determined not to, and stay independent. And there's a smirk, you think, at seeing Rohan brought low. Even after all this, even after working together, all of it, there are enmities there that go back too many centuries. He doesn't like say anything insulting, but there's a hint of a smirk maybe that you would pick up.
High Queen Tyrannon of Dunland. Would you add your name to this pact of unity?
Friendship, certainly, but not fealty. We're an independent people. I have no problem agreeing to be allies, but vassalage is not something that I will agree to.
You shall be afforded the liberty of other nations that dwell within this realm.
We do not dwell within your realm, King Faroth. We dwell within our realm. The agreement that we made was very clear, that we would be given the land in exchange for the lives of my men and women who fought and died here.
I do not seek to go back on any promise made, High Queen.
Nor do I. I understand that Rohan needs your help, but we deserve it. It was part of the agreement. It is payment for the lives of my people.
Indeed. And it is not my wish to reign over any other nation in Middle-earth. The affairs of each kingdom will be dealt by the heads of that kingdom.
As you say, she says. There is the matter of Mordor and what is to be done with that land now. It will be orcs, leaderless, and without purpose, but still a great many, in pits, in mountains, in castles that have not fallen in Mordor. Elrond is speaking. But without Sauron's guidance, we do not know what will happen to them. They are twisted creatures, and they know only hate for us. What will happen there, perhaps? Kings of their own. But if we leave them build up, that threat will continue to grow. There is also a question of Umbar and Harad and Rhûn and of the Easterlings, kingdoms that had pledged their allegiance to Sauron. Perhaps they can be redeemed. I do not know. But it is a question you must ask yourself, Faroth.
To the kingdoms of Umbar and the Easterlings, I would extend an arm of diplomacy. It would sicken my heart to think that we leap from the ending of this war into the beginning of another. For them, I'm sure they see this as only a continuation of the same conflict. But now, with the sorcery of Sauron destroyed, perhaps they can be reasoned with. I have to believe that if we try, we will once again succeed. As for the orcs, I would be lying if I were to say that I understand how they... And he stops. How they govern themselves. It would be my intention to ensure that they aren't able to consolidate.
The talks go on, hammering out details of alliances and hammering out nitty-gritty bits of diplomacy that have to be finalized now while everyone is here in the room. There are scribes who are writing illuminated contracts and patents of alliance that can be taken back to each kingdom and kept there, so that no matter how many suns distant we are from where we are now, that all sons and daughters of kings and queens will know that alliances were made and should be kept. The talking will continue basically for hours, back and forth, and maybe Faroth gets an insight into what a battle looks like now, that it's no longer fought with a blade but with a pen and with words. Is there anything else you want to talk about here at this council?
I'd really, and this would be out of game rather than something that I'd roleplay, because I'd actually like to make like a considered decision about this. An obvious answer has been mentioned in the chat that a marriage of some kind would shore up an alliance. But I think Faroth would ask the opinions of those closest to him, what the best move would be in that regard. He would want to have an element of the past included in that, perhaps. Maybe marriage to an elven lady to continue that bloodline. But you've got to work out whether he has to work out whether a bloodline with that or an alliance, a marriage of alliance would be a better thing to do. So we would ask your opinion on that.
I'll just say in my head that when I thought about what happens post this is that there was like an idea of an agreement that there would be a sort of creation of a new line of half-elven people as like a last gift of the elves in a way. It sounds really like transactional and mercenary.
Yeah.
I don't think that's how it goes, you know? But
no.
But it's hundreds of years hence that there are half-elves who like, you know, live a very long time and sort of like vaguely Numenorian in their stature and their ability or whatever. But I don't know how you want to get there or if you even want to get there.
I think we could solve that with perhaps one moment. I did think that as well, and I didn't want to just throw that out there without going over it, but that's fine. I think there would probably be a moment where Faroth would have looked from the council table, and across the far side of the room, there would be some of the elven forces that remain here. And he would catch the eye of Laniel, who was the elven warrior in Mirkwood of high standing, who taught Faroth how to use a two-handed weapon. That's how he learned how to use Lakduan, was his time with her. So this is someone he has an affinity with as well. And I think the look between them there might signal a marriage, perhaps in the future. Who knows?
Nice.
You talk deep into the night, and then finally agreements are made, and everyone sort of, over the next couple of days, filters out of Isengard, going back to their various homes. Nariel, you dream of a far-off place, some library. You're walking among these shelves with these great tomes all around you, and you turn a corner and see a display showing this dragon tooth blade with a plaque that explains its origin and its history and all of the engagements that it was in and all of the things that it did. And you sort of wander further and you see a ring with two serpents, and one is devouring, the other is crowned in flowers, and this is the ring of Barahir. And again, a plaque explaining in detail all of the things that this ring stands for and the symbology of its design and what it has meant through the ages. There's a staff of Saruman the White and the crown of Galadriel. There is the curved sword of Elrond, half-elven, the horn bow of Thranduil the Elf King, all of these relics of ancient days. Priceless. and each one has this painstakingly engraved plaque beneath it, explaining where it's from. You can hear this quiet humming, a singing, as you round another corner, and there's this great wooden desk that like groans under the weight of books and sheets, and this large window is open, and the evening sun casts like a purple light on the whole room. There's an old man sitting on a chair by the desk, and in one hand is a lute and the other is a quill, and he's trying to write some kind of song, you think, to tell a story of something. You can see there are books open all in front of him for referencing tales of battles long past.
And Ariel has a feeling of familiarity as she looks at this figure. And she listens closely to the tune he hums, trying to see if she's heard it before.
Yeah, there's something familiar about it, and he sort of turns to look in your direction, though he can't seem to see you. He has an eye patch, and he says, "Is someone there?" But there's no... He can't make you out because you're not really here, maybe.
She looks at him and begins to hum "Gil-galad was an elven king" as the tune plays in her mind. And she smiles.
Minas Tirith is alive with sound. There's music playing outside, and the throne room is filled with a silent honor guard. But here in this quiet back room, the four of you are alone. Your armor is chafing a little far off from the many wounds you suffered some weeks before. And a servant ties the final strap and says, "It won't be long now, Majesty," and then steps out of the room. Beregond and Glindair and Anariel, you're sitting in these comfortable armchairs in this room as Fareth prepares himself for the coronation, which is to follow. There have been a few days of leisure in Minas Tirith, an unexpected treat. And for Glindair and Anariel, you know that this is probably the final thing you will do before you go into the West.
Beregond has just returned from he's already been to Minas Ithil once and set some work in order and things like that, and started the first tasks of trying to reclaim Minas Morgul from the shadow. But he's returned to Minas Tirith for the coronation, and he's slumped down in the chair, exhausted from busyness, and he's actually sort of, you can see him trying not to fall asleep. He's been so busy, but he's excited at the same time. So, do you want me to put the crown on your head?
Beregond, son of Beren of Minas Ithil, Kingmaker. Another title to add to the many.
That's only if the crown doesn't disappear first, along with Beregond.
I don't think it would be more. Let's be honest. A coronation is a act of symbolism, an act of pageantry. It has a magic about it, and the more powerful the person who puts the crown on your head, the more powerful the magic of the pageant and the symbolism.
There's actually been a great deal of discussion about who should crown you, in that ideally it would have been one of the Istari, Gandalf or Saruman, but they're gone, and it was sort of decided unanimously that Radagast does not have the gravitas that is required for such a task. There was also a discussion about the meaning and the symbolism of an elf putting the crown upon your head. That would imply that they are bestowing you the kingship, and that's not their thing, their right to do. But there is a question of who is to do that task.
And I suggest a king of. I suggest you put it on your head yourself, but an elf, a human, and maybe a dwarf carry the crown into the ceremony and put it down on a cushion in front of you, and you pick it from the cushion and put it on your own head.
Is there no other? Farrell says, almost hopelessly. I do not want to appear as some tyrant seizing this crown.
Alternatively, we could try using that, what was it, the circlet that controlled the dragon? We could have the dragon put the crown on your head if you feel you could control the dragon of Gundabad.
There are some who are forbidden from the ceremony at Beregond, and I would put dragons firmly upon that list.
It is a delicate situation. I believe the best person is Beregond.
I believe the best is Denethor.
Farroth looks darkly at Beregond before saying, there are some wounds that run deep, Beregond, but to add salt into them as well, it would be an unkindness to have Denethor perform such an act.
Then I suggest traditionally it was that the steward played an important part in the coronations of the kings of Gondor and the kings of Numenor. If he cannot play his part, then I think you should strip him of the title of Steward of Gondor.
Farroth can already feel the tendrils of politics and kingship snaking about their feet at the suggestion, but he does see the wisdom to Beregond's words, but he looks helplessly to the elves to see if they have any other suggestion.
Anariel would stand and come to Feroth and adjust something slightly so the weight is better balanced of this ceremonial armor, nothing you would ever go to battle in. That, Beregond, might be a task for another day, perhaps a less celebratory one. Beregond, the son of Beren, the ring-bearer, elf friend. There is no one who has commanded the respect of so many while following the king so loyally. There is no one else, Beregond.
It shall be so, Beregond. Anariel speaks truthfully. You are so fascinated on the stories of others, you are blind to the many created by yourself. You wield power unlike any other. You are my friend, and you've been loyal to me to the last. I would have no other perform this act. And my word is final, he adds with a smile.
It always is. He says,
Upon the great platform of Minas Tirith, there are thousands. The Tower Guard are keeping order as most of the city is in attendance. The sun is shining, and as you look out, you can see that over the distant lands of Mordor, there's a light rain falling, but there are no dark clouds, no black smoke, no fiery sky. It would be a really surreal sight to see these lands, which have ever been thus frightful, now just looking like mountains in the distance. Standing on the stairs that lead down from the throne room are the Queen of Rohan, the Lords of Arnor, of Gondor, of all of the kingdoms of men. Even Queen Toranin has deigned to be here for this occasion. And they stand, all of them in attendance, as well as Lords of Elves and of Dwarves. There's this fanfare that plays, and people fall silent, and upon a red pillow is the crown of Elendil. And there was much discussion and a rumour about who would be placing the crown upon the head of the king. But in the end it was decided that Baragon, the ring bearer, should have the honour. And so the pillow was handed to you, Baragon.
and Baragon carries the pillow, carries the pillow up through up the wide aisle of the throne room, and bows low before Faroth. Then takes the winged helm of Elendil, looking at it. He's looking at it closely as he does so, but he knows what it looks like. He's been studying it plenty of time, and he turns to the assorted crowds and says, and starts accounting. Faroth, son of Fardred, son of Arahir, son of Elwyn, son of, and he goes on and on for about 10 minutes, recounting the line of Faroth all the way back to Elros and back to Elwing and Elendil the Mariner, all the way back to Luthien and Beren. And then he places the crown on the head of Faroth. Rise for your king.
There's a big cheer that goes up from the people who are assembled, and a fanfare plays, and there is clapping and cheering and shouting.
After a moment, Faroth will raise his hand for the crowd to quiet. The ceremonies you have seen today are ancient, and some of their origins are veiled in the mists of the past. But their spirit and their meaning shine through the ages, never, perhaps, more brightly than they do now. I have, in sincerity, pledged myself to your service, as so many of you are pledged to mine. Throughout all my life and with all my heart, I will strive to be worthy of this trust and this honor that you do me. This day does not belong to one man, but to all. Let us all together rebuild this world, that we may share in the days of peace. Let the bonds we have forged and the friendships we've made remain everlasting. We must cherish what binds us together and go forward together in peace, upholding justice and freedom for all the people of Middle-earth. And he looks down before looking across the many assembled here. And he sings. Eteralo endoren atulien sinom maruvan ahilinia tienamba meta. Out of the great sea, to Middle-earth I am come. In this place I will abide, and my heirs, unto the ending of the world. And he smiles.
Return of the King.
Hail, King Faroth.
It goes up. Hail! You dream, Anariel, of a place, some citadel, far away, and the air is hot. And you're looking out over lands unfamiliar. There are these complex canals that run through the city below and stretching out into the distance. And beyond the city, there lies the ocean with mighty ships in this enormous circular dock. What city this is, you do not know. But as you turn, you see a young man with a circlet upon his head, and you take him to be Faroth for a moment. But you see that he's different. His ears bear a slight point, and his eyes are far less haunted than those of your friend. And he looks out over the city to the sea, as these two great banners of a white tree topped with 7 stars flutter in the wind. A child rushes out to him, a small wooden sword in her hand, and she hits him in the knee, and he falls as if struck with a mighty blow. And the girl cheers for a moment and then worries maybe that her sword is more effective than she would have thought, and rushes to his side and gives him a kiss. And he rises and picks her up and looks out over the sea.
And Ariel sees the almost unlined face of this man. And she sees the joy of the future. And then she too will look across the sea.
Okay. Take a quick break there, and we'll finish up when we come back. All right. So the coronation is complete, and Faroth is the king of Gondor, of Arnor, of Rohan, and the reunited kingdom. You have some time after this to spend in Minas Tirith. If there's anything you'd like to do.
Not actually during the coronation ceremony. Sometime later on in the small hours of the morning, or later on, the drinks have been flowing, conversations have been going all night, and Beregond is hoarse with the amount of singing and dancing and loud conversation, and he's told his part of the story many times, each time it getting bigger and more important, and now he sees Anariel on her own at one stage, and makes his way over and sits down next to her and says, "So, you're heading off into the west with your brother, then?"
Yes. Will you accompany us to the shores?
Certainly, I'll be there at the Grey Havens. I'll meet you there because I wish first I need to visit the Woodland Realm, and also there are a few things I need to do before I get there, but I'll meet you there.
Beregond.
Mm-hmm.
Enjoy yourself. We shall speak another time.
Beregond looks at some of the dancing that's going on, and some of the couples who are dancing, and turns to Noriel, and looks around for Glindair and says, "You're very close to your brother, and it's very nice, but these kind of close brother-sister relationships can be, well, have either of you ever had a romantic interest any time in your long centuries?"
Beregond.
Has Glindair's eye ever been caught?
Those are not things that an elf undertakes lightly.
So you're saying no?
I am saying neither yes nor no. If you wish to know of Glindair's past, you may ask him.
Yes, that's fair enough. How about you then?
She is still paler than usual, but there is a slight flush of her cheeks. Beregond.
Mm-hmm.
How many drinks have you had?
Oh, my lips are sealed. Your secret is safe with me, but I'm not a gossip, you know that.
Indeed, there are some secrets we would never pry from your lips.
How old are you? 800? There must have been somebody in that time.
There was once. But it
He
was
seems
a long
to sober
time.
up a little, and he's listening intently.
It was a long time ago. Our paths were not in the same direction. And we parted mutually. After some, I suppose, by mortal standards, great length of time together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well.
And you, Baragond, I suppose, if we're asking.
He looks around at the at some of the attractive women sort of dancing around and sort of in the place. A long time ago, there was somebody who she was very interested in history, and we had a lot of things in common, but she idolized me a bit, and that was not a good basis. She never contradicted me. She never corrected me when I told her information, and she was just a little bit too
I leave it to you, Baragond, to wish for discord and conflict and correction in a relationship. You are ever full of surprises.
Well, there you go. No. Well, maybe one day I'll find somebody who is as intelligent and knowledgeable as me, but I rather doubt it. He says and takes another drink. And it doesn't matter. That's enough for now.
And Ariel will just laugh in amazement at the frivolity of men and Baragond in particular.
You want to dance? He says, and stumbles forwards, crashing over the table a little, and makes his way onto the dance floor and starts dancing happily.
And Ariel laughs, shakes her head, and will gracefully follow Baragond.
You dream again, Inariel, of a place that's familiar and unknown to you. There's this really strong sea salt smell, but it's pleasant. And the birds overhead are white as snow, and their voices are sweet and musical. There are towers of white marble stretching into the sky as you walk through this place, and a sense of tremendous peace. And all around there are elves, busying themselves with whatever brings them joy. And there are children playing in a beautiful fountain. There is a statue atop it of an ancient hero. They shouldn't be playing there. An older elf is looking at them and chastising them for their horseplay. And they splash water at him. And exasperated, he turns to look at you. And it's Lord Elrond. And with a bit of a grin, he wipes the water from his face and then splashes them back.
And Ariel wonders that he could see her. And is this yet another dream or something yet to come? She'll walk closer to hear the laughter and to look upon the children.
You blink and you're in a deep forest. And the trees are ancient and you can feel their spirits, and they're kind and welcoming. The sunlight filters through them to create this beautiful pattern on the ground. And from the song of birds and the noise of insects and the calls of animals and the whisper of the wind, there's this music you can hear that's so beautiful you think your heart might burst. And as you round a corner, you can see Glindair there. The leaves are long, the grass is green, and the hemlock is tall and fair, and in a glade there's a light of stars that are shimmering as children dance, and they prance and sing and you can see stars in their movements. They look at you and smile. Your children, happily playing with Glindair's children in the woods here, somewhere in Aman.
Anaria looks at this, and it is both strange and familiar, as if something you have always expected and yet never dared hope for. And she is filled with warmth and hope.
Grey Havens are a beautiful place. There are these two massive rocks that stand as sentinels, and they create this sort of natural harbour that the elves have built around, creating quiet, still dock. And rising from that dock is a great castle of white spires of marble that stretch up into the sky, and a great lighthouse at the top. And there are gulls overhead that are calling, singing. There's a great elvish ship that's waiting. Already upon it are the Lady Arwen, as well as several other notable elves that you have come to know in your time. But you are sitting, the four of you. There is a fountain with benches around it, and you're sitting, waiting, ready to board. Elrond finds you, Beregond. I made a promise to you a long time ago that I would tell you what I could about the shape and the experience of the Silmarils as best that I can to a mortal.
Go on. You did.
Have you ever seen the Lady Galadriel's hair in starlight?
I did, yes. I gazed upon it.
Feanor saw that hair, in the radiance of the trees, and it inspired him to make these jewels, such as the radiance was the radiance of Lady Galadriel. There's nothing in Middle-earth that is their likeness. Imagine a night of stars, so bright as to be daylight, and every star is burning with this gentle beauty and radiance of a day. A sense of incomparable beauty, so strong it's almost palpable, you can feel it. And when you looked upon them, you had the feeling that anything was possible. That they who held the gems could do anything, make anything. They were beautiful in a way that the One Ring never was. Devoid of grim purpose in their forging, they were indescribable.
And yet I thank you, Master Elrond, for your attempt to describe them. And I hear in your words, and also the light shining from your eyes when you remember them and think of them, and so many other things, that I at least get a shadow of what they are like through your words and through the feeling in your voice as you describe them. Well, this is our fate, I guess, to live without this beauty. But we'll make our own something.
Make our own. He comes to you, Farath, and says, the doubt that I have always harbored about men, still there. But you have proven yourself to be capable in a way that I did not think possible. And you have faced the might of the ring and withstood it. And you have achieved things that I did not think were achievable by men, by anyone perhaps, in Middle-earth. I'm going now, but good luck.
Your doubts, Lord Elrond, were founded by the vast history that you have watched over in your time here. And it is thanks to your help and your people's help that we have triumphed also.
It would bring me great joy to know that the line of men that once I held in such esteem has returned. Perhaps it's not there yet, but perhaps it could be. Be well, Faroth.
We shall make you proud. And he bows respectfully.
He looks to the two of you, elves.
You should say, we'll make you proud, Uncle.
Not now, Baragond.
He looks to the two elves with a look that says, I'll talk to you on the ship. And then goes and boards. And then it's just waiting for the two of you.
Gwyndar looks between Faroth and Baragond. I almost wish I was not leaving. We've spent such time together, endured such hardships and such triumphs, fought shoulder to shoulder in the heart of the shadow and at the summit of light. And he reaches into a small pouch at his waist and produces two small trinkets. And says to Baragond, I've crafted you each something inspired by my time with you, inspired by your deeds, your legacies. Baragond, he hands you a small mithril trinket and says, I've come to see you as Dwath Dagnir, the Shadow Slayer. I've followed you into the depths of Gundabad. I saw you fighting. I saw you taken by the Black Numenorian, and I saw you come back to the light time and time again. And as you look down, feel free to describe what this mithril trinket looks like.
And it's just a tinderbox, a mithril tinderbox. Sort of, it's actually a lighter, but there is no such thing in Middle Earth. So it just kind of, you do a click and this flame appears, and he sort of takes a jump back, and a flame that lights, a little mithril box of fire. Thank you, Glinda. I have something for you, he says, bringing out Beleg Thoniel, as you guessed. I'm going to say he dived down and got it out of Methedras somehow or other. And he says, take it into the west, and but I hope you do not have much cause to use it because, well, not meaning to. No, this is something for another day. Take it. I don't want to offend you.
Gladly, I think I will not need it. It shall be mounted with pride of place. Thank you, Beregond. And he embraces you and probably presses his forehead to yours, just genuinely thankful for his time with you and for this gift. And it lingers a few moments. Always difficult to pull away, knowing it'll be his last embrace. But he does so and then moves to Faroth and holds out the second trinket and says to Faroth, I've been glad to follow you and call you king of men. I'm no stranger to following great leaders. He sort of gestures over to his sister. And seeing the work you have done in this Middle Earth, it's truly been an inspiration. And I've come to know you as Geldond, Hand of the Light. May your rule be long and peaceful. And he hands you a small mithril trinket, which you can describe.
I think the mithril trinket is a ring that is intended to go upon the other finger, upon the other hand, that would match the ring of Barahir. And it is a beautiful, simple woven thing that denotes the triple serpent of the alliance that we all helped to build, and in its center a hand that blazes with light. I thank you, Glendair. Though regrettably I have brought no gift for you. But I can assure you of this, that my people, and indeed all the people of Middle-earth, will sing in reverence of the hero that fell and rose again in service of all who live in freedom here. I thank you for your fury. I thank you for your bravery. And I thank you for your friendship. Travel well, Glendair.
It is a greater gift than I could ever hope for. Thank you, King Faroth. And he would give you an embrace. And I think that he would, having said his goodbyes, he would give Anariel a similar look to that Elrond gave the two of them, and saying, I'll see you shortly on the boat, and a look that says that, and board.
Anariel looks at Beregond and then at Faroth, and her eyes stay upon Faroth, and she will bow to you, Faroth. King Faroth, peacemaker, lightbringer. I am not my brother. I have no gift to give. Only a hope that there are peaceful and joyful days, that your line will continue, that I have seen some of this. May peace await you, friend.
You said that I helped you find hope before the battle. But I never got a chance to tell you. The hope that I spoke of is one that I found in you. And despite the great struggles that we experienced, you were always the source of it, emboldening us in battle and bringing us strength in our darkest times. You give me hope, Inario, and that is your gift to me. I thank you. And he bows back and then brings you into her embrace as well.
Yeah, similar to Glendaire, she will hold it for a long moment, knowing this is the last goodbye. And then she will release you and look at Baragond. Baragond. Ringbearer. You who have suffered a Morgul wound the same as I. I offer you the same thing I told you 2 weeks ago. Come with us to Valinor. The shadow will forever affect you here. And while it may not be gone entirely across the sea, it is greatly diminished. Come with us and find rest.
Baragond looks Baragond's face lights up at the idea, and you can just see he's actually distracted. You could just see him thinking over old stories of all the, there are a lot of treasures that have gone into the that were forged in the West and have gone into the West, and he's just thinking over them, and then he turns back to Faroth. I am pledged to Faroth. Oh, how I would love to walk in the undying lands of the West and see the Teleri and Tol Eressëa and all the places of legend that I've read about in books, to cast eyes on those things and find some peace. But I don't think my nature is not to find peace. I don't think my nature is to disturb the peace.
Baragond, says Faroth. And if you were to look to him, Baragond, you would see that Faroth has no surprise on his face from the suggestion that Anariel has given. And he'll say, you and I, we have journeyed the length of Middle-earth. And though often those times were hard for us both and cruel, they were filled with light and joy also. I would relive them all over again in a heartbeat. The things that we've seen, the lives that we've saved. I have been a traveller, a ranger, an elf friend, a herald, and now a king. But above all else, Beregond of Minas Ithil, it is my dearest hope that I've been half as good a friend as you have been to me. A comrade and a brother of the utmost quality. And if it is your wish to go, then I would ask of no service from you. I would release you from your vow that you made to me in Rivendell. And you could join those who once dwelt there.
I don't think we always saw each other as friends. If we think back to our first meetings, they were not so easy. And we've had our moments, but you are the truest friend I've worked with. But you know me better than any Farath, and if I pass up this, it will eat at me for the rest of my life. I will travel with them and go to the west, and then come back and see you with some of the best things that I can get there. But in case they don't let me out, or in case, well, here, he reaches into his backpack and pulls out basically Glinda or Anariel's box, the box that carried the ring. He said, I found it in the room after they destroyed the ring. I don't know where the key is, but here, have it. Take the box as a memory of all three of us.
Vareth takes it and he looks upon the...
Hugs you.
Yeah, he gives the hug back and he doesn't want to let go. His tears sink into the cloak over your shoulder. And then, with great effort, he parts from you. And he looks at the three of you. And he says, your ship is waiting.
Beregond nods and gets onto the ship and looks west. With a pained look on his face, looking out west.
The ship is waiting. Massive white wood. And you can step onto it. And the sailors on board are getting it ready to cast off. And then it will begin to sail out to the sea towards the west.
As the ship sails, Farath, you hear the song rise up. To the sea, the white gulls are crying, the wind is blowing, and the white foam is flying. West away, the round sun is falling. Grey ship, do you hear them calling? The voices of my people that have gone before me. I that bore me, for our days are ending, and our years are failing. I will pass the wide waters, lonely sailing. Long are the waves on the last shore falling. Sweet are the voices in Valinor calling.
We see the city of Anumanas, which was for so long a war-torn ruin, being rebuilt. There are men and women working in the sun, and Arahad hands a brick to a woman and wipes the sweat from his brow. He takes a moment to look into the horizon, and what he sees brings a smile to his face. In Dunland, great docks are being built with Gondorian stone, and Queen Taranin oversees the whole thing. There's a glint of ambition in her eye as she watches the construction. In Rohan, the queen looks out over rolling hills, and banners blow in the wind, and her people are safe. The sacrifice that Rohan made is greater maybe than any other. And she pulls her cloak tighter around her, looking once more into her lands before entering the rebuilt ruins of the Golden Hall. In Imladris and in Greenwood the Great and in Linden and in Lorien there is quiet. Some elves are still lingering in Middle-earth, but these places are now quiet, almost ghostly reminders that the Eldar lived here once. In Erebor there's a caravan of dwarves that's leaving, and the path ahead of them is long. They're going to Dale and then Minas Tirith and then to Rohan and Dunland and Arnor and all the way back, and there are friends awaiting them in every land. All over Gondor work is being done. Osgiliath is being rebuilt, and we can see Faroth at a desk with countless appeals and requests and requisitions. 3 advisors are standing by him, and they're all speaking at the same time. There's a lot to do. And everywhere you look, Middle-earth is changed. Sauron, the great deceiver, an enemy of the free people of Middle-earth, is defeated, and with his defeat, evil has been dealt a great blow. The free people of Middle-earth rose up together. Together under the leadership of King Pharos, son of Fardred, of Beregond of Minas Ithil, of Anario the Wise and Glindair the Brave. They fought against darkness, they pushed back the black clouds, and together they stood against the shadow.
But as he does so, there's a clunk and it sounds like there's a ring inside.